Tyrus's hands were stained with the blood of his brother. He knew now he had to take back control. Clyde approached him slowly, his interest piqued. He had never been able to spot any traces of poison in a person's body, but Clyde knew a lot about poisons. You have to stop taking him things. He needs them. Tyrus would not acknowledge Clyde, but Clyde persisted. He can't keep taking them and expect to live much longer. He's too weak and he needs to take in nutrition that way. When you start trying to poison him, he'll think you're planning on killing him. He's weak enough right now. There is no popcorn. It's been gone for almost 3 hours. Did he drink any water in that time? If so, how much was it? Did he take any medication? Tyrus needed a distraction. He needed a way to feel again. Are there any boxes around here that say Knoxville on them? Then that's what we'll have to do. There's a grocery store across the street, and it might be on the same aisle as the canned goods. How are we going to get in there? Clyde set Tyrus down on his feet. I have a better idea. That's the store he went in to see if he could get me a snack. When he comes back down, and he will, he's going to see me and we're going to have a talk about us being friends. Got it? Tyrus got to his feet and they both headed for the front door. When they got to the front of the building and stepped onto the sidewalk, the heaviness of each footstep caused Tyrus to lean into Clyde for support. They both looked like they had been dead inside for a long time. They were both so weak. He doesn't deserve this, Clyde thought. He just wants to get well and live his life. He doesn't want to be taken care of. Tyrus said nothing, but the fear in his eyes spoke volumes. Once they were on the sidewalk, Clyde stopped and gripped his friend's shoulder. Look around you, Tyrus. It's just a little potato chip aisle with about 1,000 different bags. How are we going to find the one he wants? He's already looking. He saw me first. He's going to ask someone where the popcorn is. If we're lucky, he'll buy it. Tyrus stabbed his already weak brother with the bag of popcorn, yelling. Clyde was being pushed out of the way by a bulky man pushing a cart. Tyrus and Clyde ran down the aisle, each looking to see where the thief would go next. Clyde knew they needed to find another store. The popcorn would keep him going for a while, but after that they'd have to find someone who would help them. So they ran to another store, a grocery store. This one was bigger, full of items to last longer. They went to the meat department and Tyrus grabbed some beef jerky and a bottle of Tabasco sauce. As he passed the canned goods, he stopped. A few shelves over, he saw the corn chip aisle. Clyde pointed. There it is! He's got a couple of bags of corn chips, but he stopped. What are we going to do? He's not going to buy the corn chips? The corn chips are in a bag. Tyrus sounded excited, but his voice still lacked strength. He held his head wide open as he turned the bag over and over in his hands. Look, this one has the Eye of Sauron on it. Maybe we can trick him into buying that. Tyrus held the bag high above his head and let it dangle from one finger. All right, I'll do it. You hold the bag, and as soon as he goes past, pull on the handle really hard, and make sure you grab him at the waist. And don't let go until I say. Tyrus knelt down beside the thief and rolled up the bag of corn chips. He tugged on the handle of the bag and yelled, All right, it's empty. You ready to give me that bag of corn chips? Said the shoplifter. Tyrus smiled at Clyde and lifted the bag so the shoplifter could see it. Have it your way. Here you go. The shoplifter reached into his pocket and held out a $10 bill. He looked the bag of corn chips over in chips. Behold, the corn chip bags are even numbered. Number 2 is almost in front of number 3. Clyde stood and waved the bag in front of the man's face. Tyrus took a few steps back and said, Now, the man is going to pass by your aisle. Tyrus pointed to the aisle where they had found the popcorn earlier. The man paused for a moment. The man looked at the bag of popcorn and reached into his pocket. He shook the bag and listened to the clanging as each popcorn kernel hit the bottom. His hand slowly withdrew a handful of kernels and he stopped in front of the popcorn aisle and the bag of corn chips. He eyed the bag with as much interest as he had the popcorn. He stopped and said, All right, I'll buy it. He fished in his pocket and held out the $10 bill. He stared at it as if he couldn't believe the money was still there. Tyrus and Clyde stood proudly as the shoplifter handed the money to the cashier. They watched as the cashier counted the bill. He held the money out to the shoplifter and the man took it. The cashier placed the bag of corn chips in the bag, handed it back to the shoplifter. The cashier placed the bag of corn chips in the bag, handed it back to the shoplifter, and put the change in his pocket. The cashier rang up the rest of the items, and the shoplifter left the store. "I am amazed that we did it," said Clyde as he ran his hands through his hair. He glanced at the bag of corn chips. "That was really great. I can't believe we got the bag back." Tyrus was still stunned. "We did it." He grabbed the bag of corn chips and turned to look at the other shelves. Suddenly, Tyrus remembered his dying brother. Tyrus and Clyde fled the store and hurried to the hospital. When they arrived at the hospital, they stopped at the reception desk. "I need an ambulance for my brother. He is back at my apartment. He's not breathing well. I think he's had a heart attack. Please call 911. His name is Gordon Sheardon." The receptionist picked up the phone and ordered the call to be put through. She then hurried back to her desk and began calling on the phone. "Rudy, I know you're in bed. Just take a shower and come downstairs." Everyone hopped into the ambulance and rushed to Tyrus's apartment. Once there, they put on surgical masks and entered the apartment. "All right, Gordon, let's start working on getting you some help. I want you to take a deep breath." Tyrus spoke calmly as he rushed to Gordon. He then asked, "How did you eat the popcorn?" Gordon sat up in the recliner. His eyes widened and he stared at Tyrus. "You didn't put my corn in the bag, did you?" Gordon suddenly seemed to be as confused as Tyrus. "What? Why would you do that?" "Because my brother went to buy some popcorn and didn't buy any. Then he tried buying it by turning in a coupon. When he came to my door, the popcorn was already in the bag and he left." "Uh-oh," Gordon said as he turned into a rhinoceros and turned from blue to red. He had just found the corn that Tyrus and Clyde had hidden in the bathroom. He shot up and saw them standing over him. He rolled out of the chair and grabbed Tyrus and Clyde. He dragged them around the living room. Tyrus and Clyde stopped moving. He then raised his voice and yelled, "I'm going to get you guys now!" "Quick, Tyrus, use the corn chips!" yelled Clyde. Gordon chased the brothers into the kitchen and began tearing open a bag of corn chips. "That isn't going to work for long," Tyrus yelled. Gordon didn't seem to listen. He tore the bag apart and began shooting the corn chips at the brothers. They scattered and jumped out of the way. The ambulance came crashing through the wall of the third-floor apartment and stunned Rhino Gordon long enough for Tyrus and Clyde to grab the Rhino corn chip reversal gun. They fired off a round that changed Gordon back into a human. They turned back to the Rhino and said, "Hi, Gordon. This is my friend Clyde. We were just in your apartment and have some questions for you." Gordon walked up to his brother and his friend and said, "So, you're both drug dealers. I wonder why you were trying to sell me the corn. But that's okay now that everything is fine. Okay, now I need a bite of that sweet, sweet popcorn." Ha 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 ha. Everybody laughed and they all watched TV and had popcorn. The end. Just kidding. I know it's kind of long. Just a joke. No hard feelings. Not really. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. And hey, after this, let me know what you think.